Perugia, Italy, November. A cold wind whistles through the ancient streets. A darkness hangs heavy in the air. The silence is broken. A gruesome discovery rocks the city. Perugia, Italy, a picturesque hilltop town, narrow cobblestone streets, medieval architecture, a place steeped in history and beauty. It seems untouchable by the darkness that lurks in the shadows, but evil knows no boundaries. It can penetrate even the most idyllic facades, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. A nightmare is about to unfold. Meredith Kercher, a bright young British student. She came to Perugia to experience life, to embrace a new culture, to make memories that would last a lifetime. She was full of dreams, full of life. She never imagined the horror that awaited her in this charming town. Her story would become a cautionary tale, a reminder that darkness can lurk where we least expect it. Meredith, a name that would soon be etched in history, a young woman with a zest for life. She left her home in the UK seeking adventure and knowledge. She arrived in Perugia with a heart full of hope. Her smile could light up a room. Her laughter was contagious. She had a kindness that drew people to her. She was eager to embrace Italian culture. Perugia, a city with a dark underbelly. Beneath its charm lay hidden secrets. Meredith was unaware of the dangers. She immersed herself in her studies. She made new friends. She explored the ancient streets. She was living her dream. But fate had other plans. A sinister plot was already in motion. One that would shatter her world. Amanda Knox, an American student. She too was drawn to Perugia's charm. She met Meredith. Their paths crossed in this foreign land. They were both young, both seeking new experiences, but their lives were about to collide in a way neither could have imagined. Their fates intertwined in a story of betrayal and murder. November 1st, 2007, a night that would forever stain Perugia's history. The silence of the night was shattered by screams, a struggle, Then, silence. Meredith's life was tragically cut short. In the house she shared with Amanda Knox, a place meant to be a sanctuary, became a crime scene. Her dreams, her future, snatched away in an instant. The following day, concern grew when Meredith didn't show up. Her friends went looking for her, and their worst fears were confirmed when they discovered her body inside the apartment. The scene was gruesome. Blood stained the walls, a testament to the brutality of the crime. Panic and grief engulfed the city as news of the murder spread. Italian police launched a full-scale investigation, determined to bring the killer to justice. Every piece of evidence was scrutinized, and every witness interviewed. The apartment became a hub of activity as forensic experts combed through the scene. The pressure mounted to find who was responsible for this heinous act. Amanda Knox Meredith's roommate became a person of interest. Her behavior struck some as odd. She didn't seem to fit the profile of a grieving friend. Her boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, was also drawn into the investigation. The couple's actions in the hours and days after the murder raised red flags. The police believed they were hiding something. The net was closing in. The prosecution painted a vivid and compelling picture for the jury and the public. They described a scenario of a drug-fueled sex game that spiraled out of control, leading to tragic consequences. The prosecution argued that Meredith Kercher was brutally murdered in a violent frenzy. This horrific act, they claimed, was initiated by Amanda Knox, who was portrayed as the mastermind behind the crime. Raffaele Sollecito and Rudy Guedi were depicted as willing accomplices, each playing a crucial role in the events of that fateful night. The evidence presented was largely circumstantial. However, the prosecution believed that the combination of these pieces formed a strong and undeniable case. They pointed to DNA evidence, which they claimed was irrefutable. This DNA evidence was found at the crime scene, meticulously collected and analyzed by forensic experts. The prosecution argued that this evidence linked Amanda Knox, Raffaele Sollecito, and Rudy Guedi directly to the murder of Meredith Kercher. The trial quickly became a media sensation, capturing the attention of people around the world. The courtroom was filled with journalists, and the case was a subject of countless headlines and news stories. The intense scrutiny and public interest added pressure on both the prosecution and the defense, as every detail of the trial was dissected and debated. Forensic experts took the stand, presenting detailed analyses of the evidence, including DNA samples, fingerprints, and other forensic findings. The jury listened intently, taking notes and weighing the evidence presented by both sides. In the closing arguments, the prosecution passionately reiterated their case, emphasizing the strength of the evidence and the motive they believed drove the defendants to commit the crime. Outside the courthouse, the public and media continued to speculate and discuss the case, with opinions divided on the guilt or innocence of the accused. The judge provided the jury with detailed instructions, reminding them to consider the evidence carefully and to deliberate without bias. The jury then retired to deliberate, tasked with the monumental decision of determining the fate of Amanda Knox, Raffaele Sollecito, and Rudy Guedi. As the hours passed, the tension in the courtroom grew, with everyone anxiously awaiting the jury's verdict. Finally, the jury returned to the courtroom, and the judge prepared to read the verdict, a moment that would determine the future of the accused and bring some closure to the tragic case of Meredith Kercher. The prosecution focused intensely on Amanda Knox. Her behavior, both during and after the tragic event, was deemed highly suspicious by the authorities and the media alike. They scrutinized every action, every word, and every expression she made. Her demeanor in the aftermath of the murder was not what they expected from someone who had just lost a friend in such a brutal manner. She was seen laughing and smiling at times that seemed inappropriate to many observers. From a grieving friend, she was seen kissing her boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, which further fueled the perception that she was not behaving as a typical mourner would. This public display of affection was heavily criticized and used against her in the court of public opinion. At the crime scene, her actions were under constant surveillance. She allegedly changed her story multiple times, which only added to the suspicion surrounding her involvement in the crime, about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Her statements were inconsistent. Her actions and words during police interrogations were seen as erratic and unreliable, casting further doubt on her innocence. Whether misunderstood or not, her portrayal in the media was overwhelmingly negative. The press painted a damaging picture of her, one that was hard to shake off. This portrayal influenced public perception and arguably the legal proceedings. In the eyes of the prosecution and in the court of public opinion, Amanda Knox was already guilty. The media frenzy and public protests only added to the pressure on the legal system to deliver a verdict that matched the narrative being built around her. The case became a spectacle, with every detail of her life and behavior being dissected and analyzed, often out of context, to fit the story that had been constructed. A bloody fingerprint found at the scene belonged to Rudy Gutt. This single piece of evidence would set off a chain of events that would captivate the world. The fingerprint was unmistakable, a clear match to Gutt, a man with a troubled past and a history of criminal activity. A known criminal. He was quickly apprehended. The police wasted no time in bringing him into custody. His arrest was swift, and the community breathed a sigh of relief, believing that justice would soon be served. But the story was far from over, and tried separately. Found guilty, the courtroom was tense as the evidence was presented. The gavel struck, sealing his fate. Gued was found guilty of the heinous crime, but questions lingered. Was he the only one involved? And sentenced to 30 years in prison. The sentence was harsh, reflecting the severity of the crime. As the prison bars closed behind him, the case seemed resolved. Yet the prosecution had other theories. But the prosecution argued that he did not act alone. They believed there were others involved, and their investigation continued. The courtroom debates grew more intense with new evidence coming to light. They believed the murder weapon, a kitchen knife found in Sollecito's apartment. This knife became the focal point of their argument. It was not just any knife, but one that had a story to tell, had DNA from both Amanda and Meredith on it. The forensic analysis was meticulous. The DNA evidence was compelling, linking both Amanda Knox and Meredith Kercher to the knife. This discovery added a new layer of complexity to the case. This became a key piece of evidence in their case. The knife with its dual DNA traces was presented in court. It became a symbol of the prosecution's theory that more than one person was involved in the crime. The courtroom watched in silence as the evidence was laid out, each piece adding to the intricate puzzle of what truly happened that fateful night. The case gripped the world. Media from all corners flocked to Perugia, hungry for any scrap of information. Amanda Knox, young, attractive, American, became a lightning rod for sensationalism. She was dubbed Foxy Knoxy by the tabloid press. Her life and the lives of all involved were put under a microscope. The intense scrutiny only added to the pressure of an already complex case. The defense team, tasked with a daunting challenge, aimed to dismantle the prosecution's case and prove their client's innocence. They faced an uphill battle. Public opinion was against them. The evidence, though circumstantial, seemed to point to Knox and Sollecito. But as they dug deeper, cracks began to appear in the prosecution's story. The defense seized on these discrepancies. The defense argued that the investigation was flawed from the very beginning. They pointed to inconsistencies in witness testimonies and raised questions about the reliability of the DNA evidence. The crime scene, they claimed, had been contaminated due to police negligence, casting doubt on the validity of the evidence presented in court. The case became an international incident, with both the United States and Italy closely following the trial. The media coverage was relentless. Amanda Knox, in particular, became a polarizing figure. Some saw her as a cold-blooded killer, while others believed she was a victim of a miscarriage of justice. The world watched and waited as the jury deliberated. Their verdict would have far-reaching consequences. Italy, a nation divided. The case had sparked heated debates about the judicial system, the role of the media, and the treatment of foreigners in the country. Protests erupted outside the courthouse as tensions rose. The world held its breath, awaiting the verdict that would determine the fate of Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito. The jury reached a decision. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito found guilty. The courtroom erupted. A wave of emotion swept through the room. Shock, disbelief, anger. Amanda, once full of life, collapsed, her world crumbling around her, sentenced to 26 years. Her nightmare was far from over. Her fight for freedom had just begun. The case, far from closed, continued to grip the world. Amanda Knox maintained her innocence, her appeals fueling the controversy. After years of legal battles, she was acquitted, but the shadow of the case lingered. The truth, elusive, lost in a maze of conflicting evidence and media scrutiny. The chilling murder of Meredith Kercher remained an unsolved puzzle. The world mourned. A young life cut short. Meredith Kercher, the victim often forgotten in the media frenzy. Her memory kept alive by her loved ones, who sought justice and remembered her for the vibrant soul she truly was. The case, a cautionary tale about the power of perception, the pitfalls of justice, and the enduring impact of a crime that shook the world. The questions linger, the wounds remain, a stark reminder that some truths may forever remain hidden in the shadows.